On Press Perspective today, we count down 1 week to the return of K-pop sensation BTS and the departure of the KDZ to Jungkook. Do stay with us. Hello, welcome to Press Perspective for this Friday, March 13th here in Seoul. I'm Min Sun-hee. It's that time of the week yet again during which we touch upon a broad mix of entertaining and enlightening stories here that made international headlines. For more on this, I have Camille Ruiz with French radio news network RFI in the studio. Camille, welcome back.
Happy to be back.
I also have writer Colin Marshall with us. Colin, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Camille, we should start with you. So we're counting down 1 week, as I mentioned earlier, to the release of BTS's new album and its return to the stage. Let's start with some details about the foreign media coverage of this upcoming event.
Yeah, first of all, the announcement by the famous big platform Netflix was a very big news, and a lot of international media covered it, actually. It's the first time ever in Korea that the platform is filming such a huge event, a live concert. It will be broadcast to over 190 countries. And as for press coverage, almost every media recalls the BTS hiatus during their military service, because it's obviously unusual to us and to people who don't know about the actual Korean system. And they also highlight the scale of the world tour and the huge expectations of fans and the music industry, obviously. And several medias, like CNN, reminds us that they are pioneers in their genre, in the K-pop field, and also in the international recognition of K-pop. Even if to do so, they sadly had to face harsh criticism and even racism, but it's another story. And Billboard took an interest in the figures. Journalists have estimated that the group will generate $1 billion in revenue from the new album. It's huge. And I'm sure that we'll see other multiple articles and news next week as the concerts gets closer. And obviously a lot of press release papers will be out after the event also. I can't help but think that there's a huge pressure on them right now. They also changed my teenage and adult young years, so I just want to wish them good luck.
Right, indeed. And their album, Colin, BTS's new album, which will be released on March 20th, that is next Friday, it's titled Arirang, in reference, of course, to the members' Korean heritage. More recently, BLACKPINK collaborated with the National Museum of Korea with regard to its comeback album deadline. How, Colin, do you explain these K-pop efforts to shed light on our cultural heritage?
Yes, I suppose I should clarify for listeners or viewers who don't know that the BTS has not named this album after this television station, but after the folk song that is the unofficial national anthem of more so than just South Korea, but the Korean people as a whole. And so it is, you could say it's a bit of a statement, or to put it mildly, to name an album that, especially at this stage of their career, you could say the peak of their popularity and coming back after time away and all that. BLACKPINK has also, in a way, been a little earlier on this use of Korean heritage, we could say. I'm not sure, there could be, it's hard to say who actually came first, because BTS have also used, for example, hanbok, the traditional dress of Korea. But BLACKPINK did it as well. They commissioned their own hanbok-style costumes for their show in Coachella, which is in the United States, the big music festival in the California desert. So not only are they referencing Korean heritage in their show, they're doing it abroad. And that's especially telling in a way that this is happening with products, cultural products and shows that are not necessarily confined to Korea. And in the case of BTS, not confined at all. The sales are going to be greater outside Korea just because of where the fans are. Now, you could think about this in these terms, that South Korea is well known as an export-dominated economy, an export-oriented economy, shall we say. Many products here are designed to be consumed abroad, and whether that was ships, or it was textiles before that, or appliances. There were semiconductors, and many things that cars, for example, did not necessarily play up their Koreanness, or the makers didn't necessarily take great pains to refute assumptions that they were from other Asian countries. So the sense that it's important, or more that it's valuable, or that it's profitable to emphasize the Koreanness is kind of a recent thing. And this is true even in the cultural export industry. Now it's seen as the move, clearly, not just to announce this is Korean, this music is Korean, this band is Korean, but to even sort of emphasize the roots that we're not only are we Korean, we're paying tribute to our heritage, we're drawing from it. And so you can see this as entering a new phase, not just of K-pop, but of sort of Korea's presence in the world as a whole. It's no longer about being generically appealing. And in fact, that maybe wouldn't work anymore. Now, Koreanness has to be emphasized, and probably it'll get to the point where people here in Korea wonder if it's not being emphasized too much. So wait for that. We're not at that point yet, but I think maybe later on, after BLACKPINK and BTS do it, and sort of other maybe lesser known bands try to ride those coattails, then you're going to start seeing it questioned. But for now, I think it's something to watch and sort of, I think, be fascinated by, to see how these modern interpretations of much older cultural concepts get used for pop appeal, shall we say.
Right, indeed. And we will get a glimpse of that, of course, next Saturday. That is March 21st, when BTS's comeback concert takes place in downtown Seoul. Now, a comprehensive framework, of course, of measures to ensure that the event is safe and fun are in place. Could you tell us a bit more, Camille?
Yes, what is really important to note is that it's, since the World Cup in 2002, one of the biggest events in Gwanghwamun in terms of people attending, 260,000 people according to the police. If you go on the official website of the city of Seoul, there is an entire page related to safety measures, even if the concert is organized by private entities. So almost 900 public restrooms secured for visitors. Authorities notify that the number of female attendees are twice the number of male attendees, so there will be additional women-only restrooms. Multilingual staff will provide help services in English, Korean, Chinese, Japanese. Firefighting and emergency medical personnel and vehicles will be stationed on sites. CCTV will also be used to check on crowd density. Police will patrol the area to prevent fans from camping overnight, and also to prevent illegal street vendors. And there is another page on the website where you can find information about public transportation, about bus detours, for instance, or some subway stations will also be affected, obviously, and more. And I highly recommend visiting the website. The Seoul mayor said in a meeting he wants the fans from all over the world to be able to return home, feeling that the security measures put in place in Seoul are of a higher standard. I personally think it's possible. I hope they are well prepared, and I can't wait to see that.
You're right. Fingers crossed, of course. Colin, let's now move from K-pop to K-food, if you will. British daily The Financial Times, it claims that South Korea is particularly prone to viral food crazes. Do you agree? What have been your personal experiences online?
It's hard to deny, I would say. And when I think about my time in Korea, living here, you can almost break it down. You can break down the sub-eras in which food trends, which food crazes we've seen come and go. I mean, I came here in the time of buldak, fire chicken, and honey butter chips. And if I say that, people who know Korea will know exactly when I first came here. But I was trying to think of all the ones I've seen pass by. There was dalgona coffee. There was tanghuru, the sort of candied fruit on a stick. That was more recent. There have been the follow-up to honey butter chips, honey butter almonds. Those have some staying power. But yes, it's hard to deny. And I think some of this foreign media coverage has it right in saying that people in Korea are, in a way, primarily interested in the trend, less so than the food item it's about. So everybody wants to get in on it while it's happening. For social media, that's one reason. You want to post that you did it. And there's an excitement in trying out what everybody else is trying out. But also, you want to be able to judge for yourself in a way. We were chatting beforehand, before the broadcast, about the flavor of these ducheongu, and they're different everywhere you go. So there's more variety, I guess, than other food trends, where you go and you can just taste each shop's sort of own spin on it, some of which are better than others. Some of them have been cutting some corners. But now that the trend is coming toward its end, the prices might level out a bit. And it's a good time for those who are not so trend concerned to get in on it. But I think for most Koreans, it's the wrong time. Like, you were supposed to get on it a month or two ago. But for foreigners, I think now we can feel free to go just buy at our leisure, and they'll be a lot cheaper too.
Right, indeed. Camille, how are pundits explaining the fast spread of new food trends here in South Korea?
Oh, there are many factors, but one of them is the country collectivist norms. So the fact that in South Korea, the country values the interest and goals of collectivity rather than individuality. And you can discuss this new food trend you test the other day with your friends, because you probably tried it too, because they probably tried it too. And whether you like it or not, it's like light-hearted subjects, not like politics, for instance. To me, it allows people to share personal opinions and views without upsetting anyone. And another thing is, I have the impression that going out to try new types of food is an excuse to see your friends in Korea. There are a lot of cafes with great decorations. Many trendy food are designed to look appealing on social media, as Colin just said, which encourage people to try them and share photos online. And Korean consumers are really interested in new experiences, especially in terms of eating and drinking. And it's hard in this society to confess you did not try something everyone has tried. It's difficult to be the only one who didn't. It's called FOMO, fear of missing out. And you want to know if the product is worth the hype, as Colin just said, and the trend. I guess. I didn't try Dubai chocolate, to be honest, yes. At the time, it's so expensive that I first thought it was not worth it. But I may just give up and try the donjukgung. Many observers say the cycle of food trends is accelerating because social media shortened the time between viral content and consumer behavior.
Right, indeed. Colin, in recent times, the lifespan of these viral food trends has become shorter, and quite a number of critics claim that this is a cause for concern. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I mean, sometimes they're an attempt to make trends come back, or to draw on the sort of, if you can say, retro appeal of them. I was at a coffee shop, one of the major chains here recently, and they were selling buldak sandwich, as I mentioned, buldak fire chicken from sort of 10, 15 years ago. And now the flavor is back in sandwich form. And it wasn't bad, but I don't know if it's going to come back in the way it was. As I say, there were honey butter chips, and those had a huge burst of popularity, kind of fell off. But honey butter almonds, in their many flavors, I still see those every day in the convenience stores. So those have lasted. Some of these food trends that are not so big to begin with, they stick around and become something more than trends. I think of one I like. It's sogumbang, or salt bread, which is they're croissant-shaped, but they're not like croissants. They're more bread-like texturally, but as the name suggests, they're salty, and they're also very buttery. And now there are many varieties. I had one yesterday, sort of mokkapang, sogumbang, and they're two hybridized together, and I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. But if it's a concern, I wouldn't put it in Korea's top 100 problems, the sort of rapidity of food trends, but I think of Bong Joon-ho's film Parasite, Gisaeng-chung, and there's a part that I think went over the heads of many foreign viewers, which was that the family living at the very bottom of the house, the poorest ones hiding out, they are depicted as having lost their money in a variety of schemes, including running castella shops. And many Korean entrepreneurs try to get in on every food trend, and it just build the shop cheaply, just get in there, sell as many as possible, and get out. I think the majority don't do that well. They don't all sort of ruin their lives in the manner of these characters, but I think the ones who really make good money are few, and just chasing the trends is the MO in so many lines of Korean business that I think more get burned than are successful in that way. So if it's a concern, I think it's a concern in that way. You just get too much money and effort plowed toward them that doesn't really pan out for anybody.
Right. Camille, moving forward, March marks Women's History Month over in the US, and in light of this occasion, the New York Times turned the spotlight onto women who changed history of the past 100 years. On that list were two Korean women, Kil Won-ok and Yoo Kwan-sun. For the sake of our viewers who may not be familiar with these Korean women, could you tell us a bit about them?
Kil Won-ok was 12 when in 1940 when she became a victim of the Japanese military sexual slavery. We know at the time a lot of Korean girls and women, and also Chinese women and women from other countries were raped by Japanese soldiers and used as sexual slaves during World War II. Kil Won-ok was one of the victims who spoke up after these atrocities. She participated in the Wednesday demonstrations, which for over than 30 years demanded that the Japanese government issue official apologies and compensation. She spent the rest of her life advocating for women's rights in Korea and also internationally. Because she was also an activist for, she stood up for peace in the Korean peninsula. She was born in Pyongyang and unable to come back home after the Korean War, obviously. And in 2017, she founded the Kil Won-ok Women's Peace Prize, a fund to discover and to support Korean women's activists who work for peace and Korean unification. And she died at 96 last year in 2025. And you talked about also Yoo Kwan-sun. She was a high school student. She became famous because of her heroic and tragic, if I may say, destiny. In 1919, during the Japanese colonization, she took an active part in the independence movement. In the New York Times, she was named among other women who died before her time, and again in a tragic death because Yoo Kwan-sun was arrested and tortured until the very end by Japanese soldiers. I recently read a book by Kim Joo-hae, Beast of Little Land, 작은 땅 위 야수들 in Korean. I don't know if you read it, Sunny, but I highly recommend it, where the author tells about demonstrations at the time in Seoul in front of the French embassy and the United States embassy, and some characters were female students. It reminds me of her, and I like to think Kim Joo-hae probably got inspiration from Yoo Kwan-sun.
I'll make sure to read that book. Colin, what do you believe are the broader implications of this foreign media spotlight on these Korean women and their roles in history?
Yes, I think there's more interest in Korea abroad than ever, of course, and thus more interest in understanding Korean history. And not everybody who wants to know more about Korea really wants to dig into its history, but there are more and more over time as time goes along. And what keeps coming back to mind is an observation made by a friend who's been a professor here a long time in Korea. And he was saying his students, though they're very smart, they're all Korean, and yet they cannot give a narrative of Korean history, no matter how broad the strokes. They can give you stories of individual episodes, and they're sort of achronological and mixed up with TV dramas and movies. And it's just the narrative is somehow missing. And so I think if someone wants to understand Korean history, whether they're here in Korea or elsewhere, it is important to listen, to these stories that people who lived the history have preserved and incorporate them into your understanding, but also to gain an understanding of the context of the whole narrative of Korean history, which is hard to come by sometimes, especially in a country like this where history is often politicized, where the idea that the narrative gives or takes away legitimacy, gives to or takes away legitimacy from the state is still an idea in play. So I would suggest bearing in mind, the stories I hear individually, how can I fit them into a broader context? You know, and then there are certain episodes of Korean history as well that those of us who comment publicly in the media always sort of think, how can we discuss this without stoking controversy? How can we discuss this without getting in trouble? And I think to someone who wants to understand Korean history fully and deeply, they might want to start with that question. From where do our concerns, those concerns come? Why are we thinking, what will happen if I say this? What will happen if I say that? Can I reference these facts? What's going on there? And it's a bigger subject than we have time for today, but I think if you really want to understand Korean history and its relevance to modern Korea, you have to bear that in mind at all times, and you always have to fit the stories you hear into the larger context.
Right, indeed, of course. Right, as you said, Colin, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this edition. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you.
Camille, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you, Sunny.
Right, that brings us to the end of this week's editions of Press Perspective. As always, do have a great weekend. Be sure to join us again same time next Monday for more panel discussion.